We're going to process a form via post and then another form via get. We'll do get first. Get and post are the two ways that you can actually post your forms. This is going to post to a server-side page, and you can see that the method itself in the form, where the form tag is in your code, needs to be a get to do the get and a post to do the post. Post is going to send things in the header. The get is going to send things on the query string, and I'll show you what that looks like if we just take a look at the processing of get. Now you can just take this page here all by itself here and just stick it up there, and then you can actually see what the query string is going to look like. We have sample data already in place, and then we can just click down here to send the comments. Notice that we have name value pairs, and we've talked about this a lot throughout the training. This is going to be URL encoded so that the spaces are not going to be spaces, but they're going to be plus signs, and that is just substituting things. If you want to see the parsing videos in the string section, you'll get more details there. And anything that needs to be turned into a hex value is going to be turned into a hex value with the % sign, and that's something that can't be displayed here or needs to be encoded. It's going to be encoded. So you want to check out the get functionality a little bit more if you need a lot more details there. Now you can just actually just see that this is just something you can copy and paste and just look at it inside the text editor, for example, just at the top. And you can see that it really is just a name value pair, starting with the question mark there. And you can break it at any point, really. After the ampersand, ampersand goes to the next field there. And if you want, you can just go through it and actually just find them and hit return or enter there to go to the next one and find them all. And you can see the message itself has a lot of other things that can be placed in there as far as the URL encoding. And you can get the idea here. Just pluses are going to be spaces later on. And then when it gets to the server side, this is all going to be taken care of for us. We can just process each variable because the browser and web server work hand in hand to make sure that that's going to be taken care of for us and processed. I'll show you how to process it. We just have some variables here that we set so we don't have to worry about it. And we just echo things here right out into the form field. So when you look at the properties, it's not a default value, but it's actually PHP code that's placed there. And Dreamweaver here is smart enough to know that it should make it another color there to let us know. That text area doesn't do that, but we do put the code in there. As you can see, echo it out, semicolon, and it's right there within the quotes for the value, as you can see. And we'll look down here in the area here, the text area, and we can see that you want to make sure that when you put that text in there, that there's no extra spaces in there. So a text area starts off like this, and it continues across. You have your columns and your rows. And then immediately afterwards, you can see that we just have, instead of being a value there, attribute, it just goes right next to the text area. And there's the closing of the text area. Most likely you want to just have it flush like that. It's an open and close tag. A little bit different than the others. But that's how it looks. And then what we have here on the server side, we can just see that we echo out the values here, but we also process this information because it comes in on the query string here. We'll just go back to this form here. We don't need to see the query string anymore, and we'll just click there to send it in. It's in the frames here, so we don't see it. But inside the code here, this is the processing get and processing post. We can see here that this is the actual form. We just need to take a look at the scripts. And normally you put those in a scripts section here, and we can see them there. Process get and process post. And they both look exactly the same. They're just tables that output some PHP. And if you select there, you can see that it just echoes out that variable name there. But let's take a peek at that. That's the post, and this is the get. We take a peek at that, and we can see here at the top, we're going to check a server variable that we have been introduced with based on the arrays here. It's an array. It's one of the global arrays, and it's called request method there. It's a server variable, and it's checking to see if it's get or post. Here it's equal get, finding out if it's get. And if it is, we're going to handle a get request Otherwise, we're going to die and say, you can only use a get for this page. And the same works for post. If you want to eliminate someone from trying to post a get to your forms, you can do that. You can also find the script and make sure your data only comes from a specific script. You can see some of the other server variable videos to see where that comes from. But that's one of the server variables as well. And we've already seen PHP self as well, which is the name of this particular page. So we can also make sure that we have just requests from our web server too. So you can just take a look at the built-in arrays video to see those variables that you can process. But that's something you could do. You don't have to do it, but you could do it. It's just an extra security measure. But just giving us some more room here, you can see that what we're doing is we can echo that out too. We're going to check to see if is set here on this button here. We want to check to see if that is actually going to be set. That's the button name. And if that button was passed, then we know the form was processed here. Because first name could be blank. Anything here could be blank without validations. But if that submit button has a name, then we're going to be able to grab it and make sure that it was set, because it has to be set on that parameter list. And $_get is going to be the way that we use the array to get all those variable names as key value pairs. This is why working with the arrays is so very, very important, because it really sets the stage for everything else. We're using arrays quite a lot, and they're really name value pairs or element value pairs, and it's really, really, really handy and effective to work with these arrays, but it's also a very, very needed thing to understand them. So we just set our variables up there. Very nice and easy. The opposite for post would just use post instead of get, or you can use _request if you don't really care whether it's a get or a post. You want one or the other, use _request with that $ in front, and that's going to be a get or a post. Then we do something tricky. We'll see this later as well. We create an array of field names. In this array, we only put the array values here. They only pertain to the actual field names that we want to process. Anything else, we can ignore it. So if you have other variables there that you don't need to process, or you want to ensure that something else wasn't passed by mistake, or someone else wasn't trying to actually pass something, you don't have to process it. You don't have to do anything with it. So that's something you can do. We can just echo that out if you wanted to. And then we use the $key, and that's going to actually take the key and set a variable. Check out the earlier videos on variables and how to use the $$ notation. It's really like a template. And what it is it's actually just doing something like this. If the key is actually MSG as a string, then $key, which is $MSG, is really just going to be $MSG. Check out the videos where I explain that. It's really effective. You can just do this. These lines of code, if you have 30 fields here, for example, you don't want to write that for every field. It really makes your page really extend. So you just do that. Just do that in a very simple way here. And like I said, make things easier for yourself. And that's all you have to do. Then you echo those out. As you can see, echo the exact name, and you're in good shape. The post is the same thing as the get, except that information isn't going to be up there on the query string. It's going to be posted in the header. So it's not eternally safe up there, but it's a lot less visible than the get. So to the layman trying to be a hacker, it's really not going to work for them if they just look at your get variables. I went on a job interview and somebody tried to look at my get variables one time to see what I was sending as an indication of what I knew about ASP at the time, and it was annoying to say the least. And this is the first time I've said in like ages because that's the way I feel about it. But basically, you can't really do anything with get that you can't do with post, but you get the idea. Anyway, so we do the same thing. We use post instead of get. _request, like I said, that would be for either one, doesn't matter. You can do that. I do mention that later. And the same thing here for post. We're definitely going to put that through and check to see if it's in the array. That's the one part I didn't mention about the process get. We're checking to see if it's in the array. If it's in the array, we're good. The if condition is going to set that value. Otherwise, it's going to be quote, quote, nothing. It's not going to be set, and you don't have to account for it. You don't have to worry about it. You can put it in a field. You know that it wasn't set here on the page. Everything should be good at that point. So that's a post, and that's also a get. So this is the beginning stages of working with forms, and you can see this is definitely going to be a powerful thing to insert values into our databases. Wait till we do validations and then do some database insertion and updates and things like that. And incidentally, you can go back to the form by clicking this button, and that'll take you right back to the form, as you can see.